Good evening. This meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Education is called to order. The board met in closed session from 5:30 and took no reportable action. The first item on our, let me say one thing, which is that the agenda says that we will be joined by teleconference from Jennifer DeBranza, but she will not be joining us. And Mr. Collins won't be joining us either, so it's just the three of us. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda order. Is there a motion to approve the order?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The agenda order is approved. The only item on our agenda is the approval of the Chief Business Officer contract. Dr. Austin, do you want to introduce this?
Yeah. First of all, do we need to discuss the two-meeting rule first, or do I need to do
We can decide before we take a vote on the two-meeting rule, but we don't need to discuss that ahead of time.
No problem. Tonight we'll take that before or after. It's up to you.
Why don't go ahead and introduce the contract, and then we'll hear from the public, and then we'll have our discussion and action.
Okay, great. Tonight we're excited to bring before you our candidate for the CBO position. As you know, it's a very important position to the school district, to the future of the school district, and we're losing Kathy Mack, whose institutional knowledge will be going with her. And it's very, very important that we bring in a person that we can have confidence from day one will be able to serve our community and our school district. I'd like to thank Karen Hendricks for shepherding this process, our panel groups for panel group for their participation going through this process, and everyone for investing their time. Tonight, we're bringing before you candidate Dr. Jim Novak. Dr. Novak is currently in Desert Sands, but his experience in a variety of settings is what's exciting for us. Former CBO of Long Beach Unified, which has a reputation of being one of the best run large school districts in the state of California. References are impeccable, work history. His reputation in the area as being one of the top CBOs in the state of California is exactly what we're looking for. He is also, I can tell you this, he's the first person I've brought before you, and I'm excited about this because he's going to match our team. His ability to communicate effectively, to take complex information and break it down into the simple parts, explain things in a way that will be understandable to staff, to our Board of Education, to our community, is really going to be an asset. And it's definitely an attribute that was very, very high on our list when we were looking for candidates. His attention to detail is unquestioned, and part of the fun when Ms. Hendricks was conducting some reference checks were even people answering the phone that were going to get to the person we were calling for the reference check raved about him, not only for his work, but for the person he is. And I think those things need to go hand in hand. So we're excited tonight to bring him before you, and I can tell you he is equally excited about the opportunity to join our team.
Thank you. That was helpful. Let's hear from members of the community. I have one card from Ms. Jordan. If there are others who wish to comment, you can fill out a speaker card and pass it to a staff member, and we will accommodate you. Ms. Jordan.
Thank you. Regarding the appointment, but really regarding the contract that's being proposed, well, certainly an important position, as Dr. Austin mentioned. I'd just like to ask how many of the parents, resident, community members who finance the school district and would be financing the salary for this position would have such generous employment conditions as a 3-year employment contract. Hopefully you know that there are very, very few, even though we live here in Palo Alto. I ask why it is necessary to offer a multi-year contract for this position. Those who finance it have very little job security and could be fired tomorrow. Given Palo Alto Unified's recent and rich record of fiscal mismanagement, misestimation of incoming tax revenue, more than $5 million error, given the $6 million budget blunder leading to unbudgeted, unexpected salary increases, large legal expenses, $1 million to cozen a loan for non-compliant conduct work, not to mention other dollars to law firms, investigators, current budget deficit 2017-18, projected future budget deficits 2019-20 and onward, the unbudgeted legal expenditures, which in one case staff expended without getting board approval, and the unknown but potentially very significant future expenditures related to the Stanford expansion proposal and that impact that it may have on the budget. It just seems that instead of running a tight ship, it seems that the board and district continue to not be very respectful about spending our tax dollars, which are hard-earned. I request that the board not waive the two-meeting rule and reconsider any multi-year obligation. Thank you.
Thank you. So the recommendation from staff is to waive the two-meeting rule and to approve the contract. Why don't we have board member comments and questions? Ms. Godfrey?
Sure, thank you. Dr. Austin, thank you for bringing this and bringing us this candidate. I have just a couple of questions. First, I appreciate the simplified contract. I know we're moving towards a place where all costs are right up front. Having looked at contracts from other districts and contracts in our own districts over the years, I understand that the sort of the modus operandi in school districts is to layer things on top of the salary. Layer on car allowances, layer on stipends for advanced degrees, layer on cell phones, things like that. So I appreciate that this is sort of one-stop shopping and you can see what the number is. Ms. Hendricks did share some competitive information with us, and it looks like this is in line with what you would expect somebody in this position to be paid. I spoke to him recently, and he sounds like a really solid candidate, and I was really happy to hear that he has the combination of a business background and a CPA and many, many years in a school district CBO type position. So he feels like a solid candidate to me. This feels like a streamlined contract where we're not trying to hide anything. If for some reason we're unhappy with his performance, we can have that conversation. We don't have raises automatically built in. We can make a decision every year based on what we think is appropriate. So all those things I think give us flexibility that we're after, with some simplicity to make it just clear and transparent what we're paying our CBO. So I appreciate the work that Ms. Hendricks and you and the rest of the team did to make that work. I had one question about his overlap with Ms. Mack. It looks like we're targeting him starting September 1st. And as you said, Ms. Mack has oodles of history on board. So how much longer is she staying after he starts?
I can address that. Two things. One piece I wanted to make sure everyone understood is not only is he experienced in these school districts, he has local experience spending time in South San Francisco. I think that's really important. So he knows exactly what this area is about as well. The overlap is important, and we had a conversation with Ms. Mack even today. She still is on target for an October 1st retirement, and our September 1st start date for Dr. Novak is still being negotiated with his current district. I'm doing those negotiations directly with his superintendent for release date. We feel confident about that date, but it's not set in stone, but it's going to be in that ballpark. So that he will have some overlap time because there are nuances that are, every district has its own nuances, and this may have more than others. So that overlap time will be important. And Ms. Mack is desires to complete a couple projects that she has her hands on right now. So that overlap time would be really beneficial. It also allows him some time to get out and meet the people, whether that's in maintenance and operations or our site leaders, without the business work having to pause.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Ms. Baton-Caswell?
Thank you for saying that. I do think that it was funny when you just said there's some nuances here. I think everybody in the room smiled, including Elena. So I spoke to him as well, and what I was very interested in was his experiences looking at operations and systematizing things. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think that that is an opportunity for us to do things more easily, more efficiently, so that we can use our people in ways where they're doing more interesting and more impactful work. So I'm looking forward to that. I agree with everything Ms. Godfrey brought up. I want to bring up another thing, and that is, I believe school services, if they didn't bring him forward to us to look at, were encouraged us very strongly to look at him seriously. They believe in school services, for those that don't know, is a group that advises us. They advise school districts across California on financial matters, and they have very, very strong belief that he would be great here. And I think for me that is a very strong recommendation. I can't think of who I would think a stronger recommendation would come from rather than school services.
School services is the leading authority, and I think it's important for people to know this was not forget about what it wasn't. Let me tell you what it was. This was a recruiting effort. This is exactly what you're supposed to do if you're going to find best-in-class talent. You go and you recruit, and then they come in and compete after the recruitment.
So I wonder if you could just share with us the market standard on contracts, because I'm not sure that that's clear to the community or even to everybody on the board what the market standard is on that.
Sure. Are you talking about the length of term?
Yeah.
Yeah. Length of term, and it just depends to a degree on the size and complexity of a school district. There will be some school districts that will have no length of term. It is you're signed and you can be released. That is not the standard for a district of our size and complexity. 2 to 4 years is the market. I would say 2 to 3 years is standard, and especially in positions that require a move, a transition, and positions that are very, very, very difficult to recruit, which is definitely the CBO position, a 3-year contract makes absolute sense. And speaking with School Services of California, not only was he on the very, very short list of the best in the state to personally reach out to, the terms of the contract were reviewed with School Services of California, who believed that these were completely in line with the type of candidate that we're getting in this case and the type of school district that we are.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
I had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Novak, and I was extremely impressed with him. I was particularly impressed, along with his expertise in operations, with his commitment to transparency in presenting the district's financial state, and in his interest in and his in the past kind of implementation of a sort of a return on investment approach, where we do our best to identify the costs and benefits of the decisions that we're making in terms of their impact on the educational mission and the alternatives that we have available to us. And I think that's extremely valuable for the community and the board to see how those dollars are being spent, and to have assurance that they're being spent in the sort of highest, best use, and to support decision-making. And I think that's right in line with the work that the board has been trying to do over the last several years of rationalizing the decision-making process, particularly around budgeting. And so I see him as a really critical strategic hire in that way. And I think this is a real coup, really, and I want to give a lot of appreciation to Dr. Austin and Ms. Hendricks and other staff members who worked on it. I hope that we appreciate the magnitude of the success here, because I think it's really important. We have a district that's approaching $250 million in operating costs each year. And so investing in this staff member and other staff members who can effectively manage a budget of that size is really critical. I take Ms. Jordan's point seriously. We need to manage every one of those dollars effectively. I think this hire and this contract does that. I would also point out that while this is a 3-year contract, which, by the way, I think sets expectations both for him and for us, which I think is to our benefit, it has a 6-month severance term associated with it. So the cost of terminating it, which I think is a vanishingly small possibility on our end, but still, I think that the district is well protected by this contract. And I also appreciate the effort that staff, Dr. Austin and other staff members went in negotiating the contract. The streamlined nature of it and so forth that Ms. Godfrey refers to really reflect that. So I'm very enthusiastic about this hire. I'm very appreciative for the work that you've done. Expect you to continue to meet this standard in future hires. So you may regret your success here. But I think this is a really very positive step for the district to bring Dr. Novak on. Any further comments or questions? Is there a motion on waiving the 2-meeting rule?
I move that we waive the 2-meeting rule.
A second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The 2-meeting rule is waived. Is there a motion regarding the approval of the
I move that we
employment
approve
contract?
Dr. Movak's contract.
I second that.
Any further discussion?
I do want to just thank Ms. Hendricks. You moved very quickly here, and I'm sure that was challenging, so thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor of approving the employment contract for Dr. Novak?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Wait.
Right.
Oh.
Sorry, I apologize.
Good catch.
Thank
Thank
you, Ms. Hendricks.
That's a very good catch.
Let me read where's the text? Sorry. Do I have text to read?
I believe it's in the body of the item. It should be outlined there for you.
Says all of the senior management except from this
Under
requirement.
background on the item.
The background is just it's just a
Okay.
few little bullet points.
Got it, thank you. The board in this agenda item will be considering entering into an employment contract with Dr. James Novak. The financial terms of the contract are the following: compensation. The chief business officer will receive a base salary at the annual rate of $265,000. Fringe benefits: the CBO shall receive district-paid health, dental, vision, and other fringe benefits in the same manner and subject to the same limitations as other contracted management personnel, as those benefits may change from time to time. Expense reimbursement: the district shall reimburse the CBO for actual and necessary expenses incurred by the CBO within the course and scope of his employment, so long as such expenses are incurred by prior approval of the board, are consistent with this agreement, and as long as the cost of the expense are not already provided for under the terms of this agreement. For reimbursement, the CBO shall submit and complete expense claims in writing in accordance with the district's policies, rules, and regulations, and shall provide the board with copies of the CBO's monthly expense reports. The CBO's expense claim shall be supported by appropriate documentation prior to reimbursement. Subject to board approval, subject to board approval, the district will meet the CBO's reasonable request for technology that will facilitate the CBO's performance of duties within the course and scope of his employment. And C, the CBO shall be reimbursed for transportation expenses for the operation of the CBO's own vehicle for district-related travel pursuant to board policy 3350, travel expenses. Okay, anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So the employment contract is approved unanimously. And that concludes this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
We just got a great one.
you set the bar high, so.
That is a big piece. Hopefully I don't have to bring anybody for a little bit.
Okay, well, that's good.